Okay, so we'll start off. I just wanted to lay down a few ground rules before we start our event. So we are going to be recording this event. So if you don't feel comfortable, showing yourself, please feel free to turn off the camera. And at the same time, our number two kind of note is that feel free to chime in whenever you want. We want this to be an open discussion. So everybody can add, value to discussion. Everybody can add their points, whatever they want to say. So those are the main two things to keep in mind. And I think that's it. Was I missing anything else, okay? I think those are the main points. Okay.
Just a point, if you're not speaking, please do keep your mic muted at all times, just in case, background noises.
Yes, exactly.
One more thing to keep in mind, we mentioned in the email, a lot of what we're going to talk about can be upsetting and unsettling. And if you feel you need to, you're more than welcome to take a step back, and we'll let you back in the meeting, no problem.
And so with that, we'll begin. And then, so if we can just go to the second slide. So this is just our schedule, as you guys have seen already. We'll begin the night with a Quran recitation done by myself, and then a land acknowledgement done by Haneen. And then I'll discuss a little bit about Islamophobia and hate, discuss the incident, that brings us all together here today. And then we'll have a moment of silence and a recital of the names of the victims, and a short discussion by Ruqayya on NCCM, which is the National Council of Canadian Muslims, and what they're doing to protect human rights and combat hate and discrimination. Then we'll have Brent, and I don't know if Alex is here, but if she does jump in, they're going to talk a little bit about the resources that OCADU University provides. Then we're going to have a remark from one of the co-leaders of the Jewish Club, which we've collaborated on this event. And then lastly, the best for last, the President and Vice Chancellor, Anna Serrano, will be sharing her remarks in a few words, and then we'll close the event. So without further delay, let's begin the Quran recitation. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا استعينوا بالصبر والصلاة إن الله مع الصابرين. ولا تقولوا لمن يقتل في سبيل الله أموات بل أحياء ولكن لا تشعرون. ولنبلونكم بشيء من الخوف والجوع ونقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لا تحسبن الذين قتلوا في سبيل الله أمواتا بل أحياء عند ربهم ربهم يرزقون فرحين بما آتاهم الله من فضله ويستبشرون بالذين لم يلحقوا بهم من خلفهم ألا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون يستبشرون بنعمة من الله وفضل وأن الله لا يضيع أجر المؤمنين صدق الله العظيم. So I'll just quickly read through the meaning. So starting off with the first page. O believers, seek comfort and patience in prayer. Allah is truly with those who are patient. Never say that those who are martyred in the cause of Allah are dead. In fact, they are alive, but you do not perceive it. We will certainly test you with a touch of faith, touch of fear, and famine and loss of property, life, and crops. Give news to those who patiently endure, who when faced with a disaster say, surely to Allah we belong, and to Him we will all return. They are the ones who will receive Allah's blessing and mercy, and they are those who are rightly guided. Never think of those martyred in the cause of Allah as dead. In fact, they are alive with their Lord, well provided for, rejoicing in Allah's bounties and being delighted for those yet to join them. There will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. They are joyful for receiving Allah's grace and bounty, and Allah does not deny the reward of the believers. So that's the start of the event. Now I want to pass it off to Haneen to do the land acknowledgement.
Today, we would like to acknowledge the land OCADU University is standing on, the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also acknowledge that Serrano is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties, signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands.
So next, I'll start off with my short topic. It's a lot to cover, but I'll try to do my best. And I'll be discussing Islamophobia and hate and why it's problematic. So I want to start first with, the reason why we're here. And that's because there was, 4 years ago on January 29th, at the Islamic Center of Quebec, Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City, there was a shooting. Now, before I tell you about, what happened, I want to briefly discuss, the feelings and sentiments that I associate with a mosque. So I associate tranquility with a mosque, joyfulness, and a happy spirit. And as soon as I walk in the mosque, one of the first things I see is, children playing and families, and so many people rejoicing. And as you can see, the picture that I've shown over here is actually a picture of the mosque that was attacked in this shooting, and the same exact area which was shot up. And this is a picture of before the incident. And as you can see, there's children gathering around, there's people praying, doing worship in their own sort of ways. So this image was really touching for me because, the person who attacked this center wasn't only attacking, an area, but also attacking sentiments and feelings that I associate with this place, and any Muslim would associate with their local masjid, their local mosque. So on January 29, 2017, a gunman entered the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City and opened fire on 40 Muslim Canadian worshippers, unfortunately and tragically killing 6 people and injuring another 19 individuals in a clear act of hatred, racism, and Islamophobia. And I also want to say that because of this event, unfortunately, what happened was it left 6 widows, so six people without a spouse, and 18 children were left to only a single parent. On top of that, there's the many people injured. One of whom was left in a wheelchair, and so he can't move around, but he is still alive, and he still actually has bullets and troubles from bullets inside of him. So what I'm telling you here is really just numbers and from my own experience reading upon the event. But I want to over here I've listed the CBC documentary, and the documentary itself is much more touching because it talks and lives through the experience afterwards, and the effects it has on the people. And I want to touch also on the Green Square campaign. As you can see, if you see in all our cameras, we have we're wearing green squares. So the Green Square campaign, Rukaya will talk a little bit more about it because it's associated with NCCM. But in essence, it's to remember this day and to remember all the lives lost in that incident. And also, there was many initiatives. I'm very glad and happy to say that just yesterday, January 29th, was recognized federally as a day of remembrance for this shooting. And it's an initiative that's been going on for a couple of years since the incident. And campaigns like I Remember January 29th contributed to this movement to help set aside this day as a time of remembrance. The second picture here is a picture of the funeral services, which Trudeau and many Islamic leaders and other members from the community, religious community, priests attended. And it was a very touching ceremony. Before I move on to the next slide, I just want to touch a little bit about the mosque. So unfortunately, the mosque itself is in the same sort of situation it was left on that day. And the community hasn't been able to move forward. Actually, there's still bullet holes in the mosque, unfortunately. And so, as people are calling on this day to remember all the lives lost, they also want to help out the community. So this is a direct link to support the community if you guys are interested, or if you guys could forward it on to other people. If you could just go to the next slide. Yeah. So Islamophobia. And of course, I'm not going to be able to do justice to Islamophobia because it's a much bigger issue, and 10 minutes or several minutes is not going to do enough to really talk about it. But what is Islamophobia? So the Ontario Human Rights Commission defines Islamophobia as a stereotypes, bias, or acts of hostility towards individual Muslims or followers of Islam in general. Islamophobia can take the form of individual acts of discrimination or violence against Muslims or those perceived to be Muslims. This is a really important point because after 9/11, what happened was lots of Sikhs that wear turbans, people thought that they were Muslim. And so they would target them in incidents of hatred. And so Islamophobia doesn't only cover Muslims, but also people of other faiths, because sadly, people are not educated about Islam and educated about Islamic symbols and associate other symbols from other religions and group them as the other. And so, that's an important point about that. But also, Islamophobia, we have to recognize, is systemic. And targeting exclusion. And the main 2 points I want to list under here is that it's structural and interpersonal. So structural, it takes part at the government level in certain cases. And a good example of this is the Muslim ban in the States. And the Muslim ban was a very tragic example of a structural Islamophobia. And the government, what happens is with the government, it trickles down to other parts of the society. So then if you see the government and the president is advocating for prejudice and hatred towards a certain group of people, in policing and in other sorts of faculties of society, you'll see Islamophobia showcase itself there as well. And that means, for example, in education, in housing, and in employment. If for example, there's many cases that I know of, and many other Muslims, if you talk about that, if there's a woman and she's wearing a hijab, she's asked at certain times to take it off to work in a certain place, and that's fully unacceptable. And so it also happens on the personal level, interpersonal level between individuals. And I just want to show a few stats here, just to kind of tone in on some of the issues and how problematic it really is. So 40% of all hate crimes in Canada are hate crimes against religion. So that's half of every hate crime that happens is against religion. And this is not only to Islam. It's against our brothers and sisters who are Jewish, Christians, and of course of other faiths as well. And then 17% of all hate crimes in Canada are targeting the Muslim population. This is as of 2017. I think it went higher if I'm not mistaken, but these are all taken from StatsCan. So the next slide, I want to discuss a little bit about how we can help. Now I know I covered a lot of content, and maybe I didn't do justice to the whole topic, but how can we help? And how can you help? It's a two-way stream, really. First of all, it starts with us as Muslims. And that's why we have, the Muslim Student Association here. And we have initiatives like Islamic Awareness Week, which we've planned for March for the first week of March, where we're spreading the message of Islam and teaching people about Islam so they can recognize it for what it is. And they don't associate with the media and how it portrays it to be a violent religion. And so number one, it's on us to educate and to help spread a peaceful message, but also for people of other faiths, for people who aren't Muslim, it's important to educate yourself about Islam and other faiths, their practices and their teachings. So when you see, a Muslim praying, for example, when a Muslim's praying, conducting a prayer on the side of the street or in a parking lot, they don't associate that with confusion, but they associate that with, oh, this is a Muslim who and he's praying, or they see somebody of another faith and they're engaging in an action, and it doesn't lead to confusion. So number one is educating yourself. The second point is learning about Islamophobia, other forms of religious discrimination and their implications. Implications is the most important part there. And really in the CBC film, which I've linked in the next slide, you'll see the implications on families, on the people affected by this, and how tragic it still is, but it's something that will stick with them unfortunately for the rest of their life. And once you've educated yourself, of course you want to educate others as well. And second is allyship and support. So build relationships with your local Muslim and other religious communities. So that's very important. Everybody should get to know their neighbors, know those people who are around them, close to them, from other religious communities. And we at the MSA are trying to collaborate, of course, with the Jewish Club, which has been welcomed us with open arms, and other clubs on campus. And so we do want to engage in interfaith dialogues and dialogues across different communities and different ethnicities. And so on top of that, there's also volunteering, helping newcomers integrate. So newcomers is a big aspect because they face Islamophobia and hatred more than anybody else. But at the same time, they don't understand the facets of society yet. And so for the most part, they're still adjusting, still, need basic needs and things like that. So volunteering and helping your time out for especially newcomers who are coming to this society is of course, very important. The third point, of course, social media. So make sure on social media, you're trying your best to support campaigns and demonstrations, do what you can. Fourth point over here is talk to your local MPs about measures they're undertaking to prevent hatred and Islamophobia. This is really important. MPs serve the community, and they're supposed to be serving your local community. So you should be reaching out to them and opening discussions, opening dialogues with them, and also discussing hate. What are they doing to prevent hate and Islamophobia and other religious discrimination in the community? And lastly, donating. If you're not able to help physically and you don't have the time, or you're in a tough situation, then of course there's also the donations that can always help combat Islamophobia and hate. So if you could go to the next slide. So the next slide is just further reading, and I've linked over here the Quebec Shooting Mosque documentary, which I think is a very important documentary. It's about 45 minutes long for you guys to all see, but this is just some further reading, and I'm hoping that, you know, once I share this with you guys are able to share it with other people as well. And so that concludes my my part of the portion, and I'll pass it over now to Haneen, which she'll be doing a recital of the names, and then we'll take our moment of silence and then move forward to the next part of our program. So I just want to thank you for listening to me. I know there's a lot there, a lot to unpack. And so I'm going to take a little bit of a breather now, but if anybody wants to chime in and add anything at this point before we move forward, feel free to do so. The floor is yours, Haneen.
Okay. So now we would like to honor the 6 victims who have tragically lost their lives 3 years ago with a recital of their names, followed by a moment of silence and prayer. Khalid Belkachemi, Azzuddin Sufyan, Abu Bakr Sabti, Mamdouh Tanu Berry, Abdul Karim Hassan, and Ibrahima Berry. Thank you.
So now we'll pass it over to Rukaya. She's our communications, and she'll discuss a little bit about the NCCM and what they're doing to help.
Awesome. Thanks for that. Hello, everyone. I hope we're having a wonderful evening so far. My name is Rukaya, and I'm a 4th-year thesis student here at OCAD in the Environmental Design program. I've been a member of the MSA for about a year now, and as Shahab mentioned, I am currently in charge of communications. So today I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about NCCM. So what is NCCM? It is the National Council of Canadian Muslims. They are an independent, nonpartisan, and nonprofit organization. And this organization was built with the intention of being a voice for Canadian Muslims. They challenge the discrimination and Islamophobia that many Muslims face in Canada. This organization engages in professional activism, and it protects Canadian human rights and civil liberties for Canadian Muslims. They have a list of 10 core values on their website, and I do want to highlight some of them today. Number 1, NCCM believes in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Number 2, NCCM believes that core Islamic values align with and reflect Canadian values, including equality, freedom, inclusiveness, and justice. NCCM believes that Canada's multiculturalism and Canadian Muslims' contributions strengthen Canada's democracy. Number 4, NCCM condemns all acts of violence against civilians and non-combatants, irrespective of the perpetrator, and believe there is never any justification for terrorism. I chose these specific values as I felt it defined this organization. It also showcases that as the leading voice for Canadian Muslims, it is not independent from the country, but rather try to make Muslims be part of it. Moving on, I will discuss some cases NCCM has acted towards. One of those ongoing cases have been the issue of Bill 21. If you're unaware what Bill 21 is, it is a law in Quebec that prohibits public servants who are police officers, lawyers, and even teachers from wearing visual representations of their faith. This includes the turban, the hijab, the kippah, and the cross. Now, what does this truly mean? It basically prohibits people who visually represent their faiths from holding several positions of power. It intends to enforce second-class citizenship based on an individual's identity and religion. NCCM has been the leading force on fighting this bill. They have appealed it under several challenges and are continuing to do so no matter how many times they have lost so far. We wish them all the best on this case, as there is no place for discrimination in this country. Another case they have been fighting, which is a little bit more recent, have been the recent attacks on Muslims in Edmonton. The first of these attacks were against a woman and her daughter. They were sitting in their car at the Southgate Mall when a man approached them and banged on their window, yelling racial slurs, eventually breaking the glass. One of the women got out of the car and was pushed and beat into the ground. NCCM has been their free legal representation and are fighting for these women's justice, and we hope they succeed. Straying slightly, you may remember in my introduction that I am the NCCM Campus Liaison for the OCADU MSA. The Campus Liaison program is relatively new. It started fall of 2020. And NCCM's goal is to basically provide their resources and aid for the MSAs across Canadian campuses. These include workshops, media training, networking, and being that voice if students feel their rights are being threatened. They have already assisted many schools in getting, for example, prayer rooms, fighting against discrimination, and have been a voice for students overall. Now for why we are all here, the Quebec Mosque Attack. When this happened 4 years ago, NCCM was on the grounds right away. They have continuously done their best to aid this mosque and the victims of the attack. For the past couple of years, they have been raising money to support the people affected by this tragedy. This year, they're raising money for the Islamic Center itself. As Shahab mentioned earlier, the poor masjid still has bullet holes in their windows and haven't been able to renovate since this tragic event that happened 4 years ago. Sorry, 1 second. We hope they are able to renovate soon. NCCM has been collaborating this year with Islamic Relief, another nonprofit organization, and to help raise money for these mosque donations. And as Shahab also mentioned, they started this year something called the Green Square Campaign. It is very similar to what we wear on Remembrance Days with the poppies. The purpose of the Green Square Campaign, it is the same color as the mosque's carpets, and it also symbolizes, in Islam, we believe that in paradise there is a green garden and it is a better place than this world. So it's sort of a twofold if you want to see it that way. Now, something that is an ongoing situation also relating to this tragic event is the actual shooter, Alexander Bissonnette. He was sentenced to 40 years, which is life in Canada. Very recently, about a month ago, maybe even less than that, his sentence got reduced to nearly half of that. After killing 6 people, leaving children fatherless, wives without a husband, and a man paralyzed for life, his sentence got reduced. NCCM set up a petition and in less than a week got over 25,000 signatures. The amount of exposure and outrage that was caused by this reduced sentence has gained NCCM taking this case to the Supreme Court. As in their core values state, there is no justification for terrorism and violence in this country against an innocent people. You have heard me talk a lot already, so I will close it by saying working with and having NCCM as an ally has been a huge blessing to us at the OCADU MSA. We are very grateful for their aid and hope they are able to win all the fights they have taken on to get Muslims and other minorities the rights they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rakaya, for that. Actually, we had the last year and the year before, we had an Islamophobia workshop with NCCM, and unfortunately, we didn't get to bring them in this year. They've been very busy, but we hope that in the future we can, organize some more events with them. They're a very good team, very good group of people, and so we would definitely like to have them again. Thank you for that, Rakaya. And as we move forward, so I would like to call upon Brent James, the Campus Life Coordinator, and Alex, if she's here as well, just to talk a little bit about the resources that the school provides, and also share their own maybe personal reflections, personal thoughts on the incident. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Brent.
Hi, everyone. I am Brent Everett-James from the Campus Life office, and I am very honored to be here with you this evening. Thank you for the invitation. We in the Campus Life office foster a sense of community through our various programs. And student groups such as the Muslim Student Association allow interaction and inclusion among our students and support faith and culture. And it is a privilege to support them, to support you. I work directly with student group leaders towards creating a diverse and welcoming atmosphere at the university. And I encourage students to get involved with existing groups, or certainly to reach out and find out how to create their own. Annually, we have student leadership awards that celebrate community and excellence, recognizing the exceptional efforts of student leaders. And award nominations are now open, just to mention that. And I certainly invite the community to consider putting forward the names of your peers whose outstanding commitment to advocacy, equity, social justice, and student life and fellowship to help improve campus community. So I'm very, very pleased to support and be there even remotely right now for you, to help you as much as I can, to help promote your events and activities, to get the word out. It's an absolute pleasure. I'm a rather it's right there. I'm a rather empathic person. So when I remember hearing about this happening in 2017, and it just, I don't want to make light of it. I don't want to sound being silly, but it sort of knocked the foundation out from under me for a while, because I just don't understand why people can hate and dislike and be racist and what have you. So that's all I'll say on that. Sorry, but again, I'm very touched to be here with you tonight, and thank you very much.
And I want to say, Brent, thank you so much for being there, for your kind words. And I do want to say, Brent is very humble, but actually it was part of his idea to actually have this event as well. And he's always so encouraging and helping us so much, and putting his time, into the clubs and all the other student groups on campus. So I just want to thank him a lot for reminding me, first of all, and reminding us about this date. And actually it was one of his messages that helped put this together. So I just want to thank him for that. And I would like to now pass it over to Alex. Alex, we've collaborated with Student Wellness. She's from Student Wellness. We've seen her a lot, many happy, joyful events, many nice cups of tea and coffee. And so we're delighted to have you again with us. And I would like to now open the floor up for you to talk about some of the services that the school provides in terms of the Student Wellness Center. And so without further ado, the floor is all yours. I think she's just having some issues. Give it a minute or so. A good time for me to catch up, catch my breath. And I just want to say that Student Wellness as well has done so much for the the MSA for students on campus. I mean, it's surprising how far a cup of tea goes and a cup of coffee, and the support they've shown with the MSA has been a lot. Alex, whenever you're ready, just give us the
So she actually just texted me saying that her computer died.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to see if she can join from her phone.
No worries at all. That
It
always
says,
happens.
yeah, give me like 5 minutes.
Okay, so how about this? We'll move to the next portion and then
Yeah,
of our
let's do
program,
that.
and then bounce back and let Alex speak. Let her know that she can take all the time in the world. We all are dealing with unique issues with remote learning.
Technical difficulties.
That's perfectly understandable. So now we would like we were gonna get a few remarks from our Jewish club at OCADU, which has collaborated with us and welcomed us with open arms. And so one of the co-leaders, Yael, she's not with us today, but she submitted a video message, and so we're gonna play that for you.
Good evening. My name is Yael Castile, and I'm the president of the OCADU University Jewish Student Club. And I'm honored to be speaking on behalf of OCADU University's Jewish student body and to share a few words in solidarity in this time of mourning. Today we remember the tragic events that occurred at the Islamic Cultural Center of Quebec City 4 years ago. We have in mind the lives of those lost while worshiping. Unfortunately, we are all too familiar with violent forms of hatred directly affecting both Jewish and Muslim communities, even in our home of Toronto. There is no place for any kind of hatred, prejudice, or discrimination targeting any marginalized communities. We, the Jewish student community, are committed to standing up and speaking out against Islamophobia and intolerance we may be faced with, as well as challenging stereotypes and prejudice. We stand in solidarity with our Muslim brothers and sisters in this sorrowful time, and we would like to offer a prayer of mourning traditionally recited in times memorial called El Malay Rachamim, a prayer for the souls of the departed. El Malay Rachamim Shochin B'Marumim Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Al Khanfei Hashchina B'Ma'alot Kedoshim Uthori Ketzohar Harikia Mazrihim et Nishmat. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant true rest upon the wings of the divine presence in the exalted spheres of the holy and pure, who shine at the resplendence of the firmament to the souls of those who have passed. I will now observe a moment of silence in place of the lives lost.
So thank you so much for the Jewish Club, and I know Samantha from the Jewish Club is also here with us. So welcome and thank you for joining us. And now I would like to jump back. Alex, is everything's good there?
Yeah, I believe she's back.
No worries at all. No worries at all. It happens to the best of us. So
thank
we'll
you so much.
You.
And such a great indication of a supportive space and a supportive community, which is really what I wanted to touch on, despite that I can tell I'm returning to resting heart rate. And I wanted to make sure that I really approach this with a lot of sincerity, especially because, and I'm going to keep this short, I have a small anecdote about this. I feel very much connected to North America. I feel like in some ways I'm very much like I couldn't have existed unless people who were here already and people who came and others kind of created what I feel like is our world and how I see it. And I know when I immigrated to the United States, because my dad is the type of person who was always moving, always getting new jobs at different factories. It was actually September 11th, 2001. And we boarded a plane, and I remember through a child's eyes, essentially, seeing the world change and seeing the world in which, like I thought existed, crumble. And that's not like the ethos I wanted to bring into today. But what I do want to remind everyone is like the importance of going back to that curiosity and seeing the world as like a potentially better one, and really engaging with that like inner child and finding ways to support that child and really, acknowledge that the grief that you feel, and especially from the community, is valid. And the only way that we can heal is by coming together and sharing that collective grief, however that unfolds. So I think what I just want to say from my positionality at the Student Wellness Center is, as a center, we acknowledge the magnitude of not only this event, but of the events that have unfolded over, millennium, and that the injustice, discrimination, and atrocities against the Muslim community is impermissible. And to all of you here, all of our community members at OCAD University, we support you. And we call you into this conversation when it comes to community healing and mental health. We are doing our best to be here for you and offering you the space to be your authentic self. Your experiences and the ways in which you grieve are valid and they matter. We will do the work to become better and to fight violence in our community and at large in Canada. And we remind all of you that you can always receive support and counseling at SWC. But furthermore, we can connect you to other resources in the community that feel culturally relevant, safe, and that really fall in line with who you are as a person outside of just OCAD. And we're always open to hearing what you have to say and hearing how we can grow and seeing it as an opportunity. So please feel in some ways like this is as a welcome invitation to reach out and to tell us how to do better. We're listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was very, very deep and from the heart. I was really touched by those words that you said, Alex. But also I want to say that, our faith teaches us to always be optimistic as well. No matter what we're facing, what we're going through, our faith always says that, we rely on God and we have full trust in him, that no matter what happens to us, we'll get through it. And so, of course, all of you guys are in position, in the position at this community of some form of leadership, some sort of aid, and, you work with people. And so, we of course ask that, you use those means, your means to help us, but also help people of other faiths that are discriminated. And, there's so many things going on nowadays in the world, but, we definitely have to find common ground. We definitely have to work with one another and bridge, create bridges towards, a better future, really. And so, now I want to pass it over to one of our honored guests, our President and Vice Chancellor of OCAD University, Anna Serrano. So without further ado, I would like to pass it over to you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a really, everyone's talked about what an honor it is to be here. What I'd like to say is just, it's a Friday night tonight. It's a particular night that we're trying to remember. It's been a fairly grueling January. I don't know about you folks. And it just feels really good to be together in prayer, and to be together, remembering something that ought to be remembered for a very long time, because only in remembering do we move forward to that place that you talked about of coming together and finding common ground, etc. And how lovely to begin in that beautiful song, prayer, and to take the time to center yourself. So I really just want to thank the OCADU Muslim Student Association, the OCADU Jewish Club, and the University Student Wellness Centre for bringing us all together to remember the lives that were lost in this tragedy. And many of you have said this, but it's in community that we can find a place to bear witness and hold space for one another. And it's in coming together that we can reaffirm our community's fierce commitment to creating an environment that's free of racism. And we're committed to making sure our university is a place where you can feel safe, whether it is to study, create, collaborate, learn, or to work. We want all of us to feel safe, respected, and heard, as not just the roles that we inhabit, as president or as student or as wellness counselor, but as people, as like, you know, friends, and that this community really truly embraces the intersectional spaces we all inhabit, right? So what you've shared today really reinforces the impact this tragedy has had on our community, especially to many of you students. And I think you know, taking the time to do this is really, really important. So anytime you want me to be part of this, I'm more than honored to join you. This is not a one-time discussion, and it's really an ongoing conversation and must include all members of our community. So seeing the various clubs come together to support each other to hold this space is really important. And for some of the Muslim members of our community whose lived experiences, as I noted earlier, are made up of intersecting identities, you know, your experience have been further compounded by the impacts of anti-Blackness, ableism, and homophobia. So as I said, it's really also about the fact that we inhabit multiple identities and multiple lives. We've all seen the deep harm that is created when Islamophobia and anti-Muslim racism are expressed in popular culture, in mainstream news and social media. You know, I don't have to see yet another Arnold Schwarzenegger movie from the 80s to know what, you know, a lot of those narratives have done. Being a child growing up in the 80s, that was certainly the throbbing narrative that was in place in many of the movies that were in large cineplexes and so on. And in addition to just this overt forms of hate and discrimination, we know that its presence is deeply entrenched in our society and even takes the form of subtle remarks and other forms of micro inequities that can play out across institutions and, yes, even in our classrooms. So as we remember and honor the victims of the Quebec Mosque Attack, I want to take this opportunity as a representative of the executive team and other members of faculty to renew OCADU's unwavering commitment to fostering an anti-racist campus. While we continue efforts to address the complex, systematic, and often deeply embedded ways that systems and practices exclude disproportionately underrepresented communities, we know more work needs to be done. I don't say this lightly because it's important and ongoing work that needs our diligent attention. And as many of you know, this work is difficult. It makes us uncomfortable. It opens up, you know, all sorts of discomfort between people and across groups. But I think what's really exciting coming into OCAD is how I see so many people willing to engage in that difficult work and willing to sit in that discomfort so that we might make our way past it into understanding. So at OCAD, we're giving our students, staff, and faculty, and how are we doing this? Well, we're giving staff, students, and faculty access to training and education to build a shared understanding of what it means to truly create an equitable, respectful, and inclusive community, a place where we live these values every day. And during the academic year, we're also providing staff and faculty with anti-racism training, in preventing and responding to human rights issues, and working with the OCADU Student Union to provide equity and anti-racism workshops to students this fall. It happened, and it's going to continue to happen over the year. We're also looking at training that looks at how we connect with each other and how we might create and address the microaggression that can take place as we work with each other, and also look at sessions that provide us with the capability to have Indigenous cultural competencies. So, and then last but not least, I think it's important to note that one of the other commitments that we've made at OCAD is to improve representation on campus among students, staff, and faculty to ensure equitable representation so that faculty and staff better reflect our student population And in so doing, we can diversify as well our curriculum and knowledges to better reflect the communities we serve. So in closing, again, I'd like to thank you all and the event organizers for creating a place where we can share the pain of this tragic event and engage in meaningful conversations about Islamophobia and hate. And, you know, I hope that you all sort of found some solace in being here together with each other, and just find that slightly quiet place where we can reflect upon today and what it means to especially to those families that have been left bereaved by this event. So thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thank you so much. That you know, especially from the top down. I mean, if we're, you know, we're trying to battle these issues, and, you know, doing our part, you know, that's very meaningful and very touching for us. So, you know, we're really respectful, you know, that you were here with us, and you know, you're targeting those issues, you know, at the higher up level as well. And so, you know, that brings us to the end of our event.